Hey, it's Linda from the Hannity Show here. And as you know, Sean and I never promote the stock market or investing in it. But now we've discovered Dr. Richard Smith and his incredible financial software tools. It's trusted by thousands to track over $20 billion of investments. So if you're planning for your retirement and have any money at all invested in the stock market, go to hannity.com/retirement.
All right, glad you're with us, and happy Friday. And for some of you, just the last few hours left in the week, and put your party hat on. We'll have our concert series coming up later in the program today. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. Look, I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again, although there's really no hope at this point. James Comey has a right to remain silent. It is becoming specific, the lies and the tales that he's telling. Now, one of the things I think I figured out about Strzok and Page and McCabe, by the way, McCabe was spotted in Salt Lake City last weekend in a coffee shop. I have a source telling me. Now, why would he be in Salt Lake City? Well, maybe because that's where John Huber is. I'm totally speculating here, but he was really ID'd in the coffee shop. They said, it's him. I said, are you sure? Yeah, okay. I only have one source. I'm just passing along information. Remember, he's being investigated, criminal investigation into his leaking. And so what is Huber investigate? The leaking. So it'll be interesting to see, why would he be there? Well, to defend himself or maybe to sing. Because, what we are beginning to see with all the closed-door testimony that is slowly but surely, it's like a drip, drip, drip. We're beginning to see all these deep state actors are pointing the finger at other deep state actors to save themselves, and we're going to see more of that, not less of that. I did spend 3 hours in a dentist chair today with, I can't even explain the degree of pain that this gives you. It just is like, forget it. And it stays with you. Why are you laughing? What, you happy that I'm in pain?
What kind of pain is it? Is it the kind of pain where you'd rather have dinner with Pelosi than have this pain?
Actually,
how much pain are we in?
I'd rather have dinner with Pelosi.
Oh my God, you must be in agony.
Well, because when they do the root canal, they literally do it such that they go so far. I felt like the guy was digging into my jaw. It was a lower molar, and it's just, he's turning these instruments with his hand. He's like twirling them and pulling them out. And I'm like, I can't take the Novocaine. I got to get on the air. And he's like, well, nobody does this without Novocaine. I said, well, I'll suck it up. And I'm like, oh, it's like going through pain. So we put a few drops of Novocaine in the tooth. And that was it. But you still gets right down into the nerve, and he's pulling it out.
Yeah, man. I use topical, even when I'm getting my teeth cleaned. I don't want to feel anything.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah, man. I am such a little baby. When I go in that chair.
You are a baby.
I have the most amazing dentist, Dr. Rosenberg. I love him.
Dr. Rosenberg, I love
Simon
him.
Rosenberg, I love him.
Tommy, we love Tommy, okay.
But let me tell you something.
The dentist was great. It's not his fault that,
it's your fault. You clearly don't have proper oral care.
Oh, just stop, will you?
You're supposed to brush 3 times a day and floss.
Oh, my God. I don't brush 3 times a day, and I don't floss.
Why don't you?
Because I don't have time. I do sometimes.
This is the price you pay then.
I brush my teeth probably on average twice a day.
On average? On average,
I do about twice a day. I don't bring.
You can't fit in morning and night. You don't take a toothbrush to work.
No, I don't. What am I going to do? Run into the men's room and start?
That's a problem.
I like the automatic one.
You know what you should get? The Colgate Wisps. Those are very effective.
Yeah, whatever. The Wisps.
I look forward to your next root canal then.
All right, so Comey goes on fake news CNN for the 2-year anniversary of him being fired. Now, you got to remember, sort of like Hillary, we just played in the opening of the show, Hillary saying, well, the election could be stolen from me. Yeah, they get more hysterical as time goes on, and they just contradict themselves left and right. Now, House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, former chairman, now the ranking member, suggested today that Comey is probably in serious hot water. And it's so obvious. And I'm watching this guy and I'm like, wow. I mean, we have discernible evidence that proves what you're saying is false. And I think I figured out what these guys are. They think in their heads They really believe that they know better than we, the smelly Walmart shoppers. And I love Walmart. Or the irredeemable deplorables. There is a sanctimonious looking down on the people in this country. And, as reflected by Obama, those bitter people in Pennsylvania that cling to their God, their guns, their Bibles, their religion. It reminds me of, It's a Wonderful Life. And, the character that is playing, George Bailey goes off on this guy Potter, a mean, selfish, rich guy. He goes, most of that rabble that you're talking about, Mr. Potter, they do most of the living and dying and working and taking care of their families and obeying the laws, paying their taxes, and they're good citizens, and they can't have a decent home with a bath and and he was right. They should have that. And Potter would never lend them the money. He wanted them to be basically living in his crappy apartments for the rest of their lives. And in a good situation, you want people to be successful. Anyway, so Nunes says, reacting to Comey's appearance on this town hall last night, this is a guy that continues to just make a mockery of the entire FBI and Department of Justice. I have FBI friends saying they are mortified anytime Comey speaks. This is the guy that leaked memos in order to make sure that a special counsel was created to investigate the president. He thinks he knows better. It's Peter Strzok. I could smell the Trump Walmart voters from here. This is a guy that put an unverified dossier on a document that says verified. He signed the first FISA warrant. And now he's actually going out there and suggesting, the FBI doesn't spy. Well, when he signed the FISA application in October, the first one, remember, the bulk of that information is the dirty, unverified dossier put together by Hillary Clinton, and paid for by her and also by her campaign and money she controlled with the DNC. And Hillary Clinton. Now, the New York Times is even saying it looks like it was probably Russian disinformation from the beginning. Ding, 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 Mr. Mueller, why didn't you look into it? You had time to look into FARA violations and taxi medallions and loan applications and tax issues from the 1980s. Well, here you got real Russian interference bought and paid for by a candidate that had a rigged investigation into the crime she committed. Now, Comey goes on fake news CNN last night and, claiming that the FBI did everything by the book and thinks the IG is not going to find anything wrong. He's out of his mind. Listen.
New York Times reported that the FBI sent an investigator posing as an assistant to meet with a Trump aide, George Papadopoulos, in 2016.
Papadopoulos?
Does that qualify as spying?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on a particular investigative step because that's for the Bureau to do, and I'm not in the government any longer. But the FBI doesn't spy to begin with. The FBI investigates.
The Inspector General, the Attorney General, they're obviously now looking into.
Just stop it. The FBI doesn't spy. He signed the FISA warrant in October of 2016. That was to spy on Carter Page and the Trump campaign, because once they got to spying on Carter Page, that gave them access to all things Donald Trump world. Never mind that there were other spies, Stefan Halper, who was spying on George Papadopoulos. The New York Times says it was the FBI. We'll find out over time. What did Comey know? When did he know it? But the problem for Comey is he's lying through his teeth when he says the FBI doesn't spy, because he signed off on a FISA application, and everybody, including him, we now know because of the closed door testimony of Bruce Orr. Bruce Orr said under oath, I told everybody that Hillary paid for the dirty Russian dossier. I told everybody it's not verified. I told everybody at the DOJ and the FBI, every single person in the upper echelon. I told them all that Christopher Steele had an agenda. And with John Solomon's reporting this week, what did we learn? Yeah, we learned that, 10 days before the first FISA application was put in, the FBI was told in full what Christopher Steele's agenda was all about, because he had a deadline, which was Election Day, And all of that information was passed on to the FBI, that this guy was advancing a political agenda. So, okay, and we also know that the dossier was unverifiable because Christopher Steele, the dossier's author, even though he's paid for by everybody, even got paid by the FBI, got paid by Russian oligarchs, got paid by Clinton and the DNC for one document that even he, in an interrogatory, Great Britain said, I have no idea if any of this is true. And this is raw intelligence, maybe 50-50. I don't know. But he was pushing hard, according to the State Department official, that literally wrote it down in a memorandum and sent them out to the FBI people. And Comey, you know, it says on top of the FISA, you know, how I didn't know this, I don't know, is former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, he's actually filling in for me on Hannity tonight. He's the one that told me that he had with him, he had John Ratcliffe, I guess, on a show that he was doing. Ratcliffe says it says verified on top of the FISA application. Now, remember, we played yesterday. I won't replay it today, but Rod Rosenstein, 1 year ago, in May of last year, said a FISA warrant, well, that's an affidavit. And that is signed by a career law enforcement official. And that they're verifying to the best of their ability that the information is accurate, has been verified and is true, et cetera, or there are severe consequences. So Comey signed off on the first FISA application in October 2016. That then started the spying on Carter Page and the Trump campaign. And what's so amazing is that same Comey goes, this is October 2016, January 2017. Well, then when he went to Trump Tower and pulled the president aside, or president-elect at the time, and said, well, there's this salacious but unverified bit of information out there in this dossier. Didn't tell him that Hillary Clinton paid for it. Didn't tell that to the FISA court either. They didn't tell the FISA court that they didn't verify it. He claimed just the opposite. I mean, he's literally, every time he opens his mouth, he's lying, and he's putting himself in more legal jeopardy. And I think Devin Nunes is dead on accurate. I mean, you know, remember what McCabe said, Andrew McCabe, deputy FBI director under Comey. Remember, he said no dossier, no FISA warrant. They wouldn't have gotten it. You know, and Comey's out there. McCabe or I would have disciplined Strucker Page if I knew about their opinions of Trump. I don't believe that for a second. You know, and that he's making these, well, it's possible that maybe the president at some point, you know, could be indicted after he's president because of Justice Department rules that actually say you can't indict a sitting president. Well, that the Attorney General Barr said that was not a factor in his and Rod Rosenstein's decision or the Office of Legal Counsel's decision. And he said it did not factor into Mueller's report because he asked Mueller. So he's just spreading even more lies. And I'm telling you, this guy is, every time he opens his mouth, he's literally setting himself up for even more legal jeopardy. All right, 800-941. You know, this can't happen in this country. It's like 1984. It's like, you know, up is down, down is up. And if James Comey says there's a chocolate covered donut in the sky, there must be one because he believes it. And he's not the super patriot he thinks. A patriot respects the people of this country that work hard, obey the laws, play by the rules, pay their taxes, take care of their families, and struggle to, you know, climb up the ladder a little bit every day.
What's up, everybody? Linda, executive producer from the Sean Hannity Show, here to talk to you about your money, your retirement. Your money is like your health. It's something that you don't think about until you need it. So many people make disastrous retirement mistakes, and they're retiring without enough money, and that is just wrong. But have no fear. Meet one of the most incredible financial minds in America, Dr. Richard Smith. And Richard's extraordinary tools are trusted by thousands of Americans to track over $20 billion in the stock market. And his tools can help you reset your retirement. You're going to be hearing a lot from Sean and me about Richard, and literally we have never endorsed any financial software until now. Why? Well, because some of his customers say he's created lightning in the bottle. So go see for yourself. Go to Hannity.com retirement. That's Hannity.com/retirement.
All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show. I'm just everything. I don't think what Hillary did was criminal. I should have used the term sloppy. William Barr has acted less than honorably. Oh, and he hates Rod Rosenstein. That was the other thing that came out of this. And if Trump wasn't president, he might be indicted on obstruction charges. This is a fantasy of his. And it's like they don't stop lying. And he said, well, because of longstanding Justice Department policies that you can't indict a sitting president. When the attorney general specifically and directly said that was not the reason, that was not even in consideration of their decision. And Mueller agreed with it. They're so full of rage and hate. And they feel so justified that they think they're right. And that's what's scary about the super patriots. Because in the process, they're saying to the American people, well, we don't think you're smart enough. They think that they should choose a presidential candidate. And I got to tell you something. They have no idea. My sources are telling me that Horowitz is going to do his job. Remember, we wouldn't have had any struck page text if it wasn't for Horowitz. The Attorney General couldn't be any more clear. Mueller's over. Everything you're hearing, watching this circus unfold. Let's get the sergeant of arms and we'll handcuff him and bring him into the House Judiciary Committee so that our lawyers can ask him questions, which has not happened in the 206-year history of that committee. And it doesn't matter. Rod Rosenstein doesn't have strong character. Why? Because he didn't do what you did and, lie and set up a special counsel. All of this, they could have gone to Donald Trump and said, by the way, we're worried about somebody in your campaign maybe talking to Russia. Why wouldn't they have brought him in? Because they were setting him up. At the first, Donald Trump's a business guy, sits down with Comey. Well, you're my guy, right? He took that. Well, because he said that to anybody that he hires his whole life. But no, it's got to be sinister. It's got to be nefarious because you're James Comey. And again, you know better. You set it up that the other person wins.
What's up, everybody? Linda, executive producer from the Sean Hannity Show, here to talk to you about your money, your retirement. Your money is like your health. It's something that you don't think about until you need it. So many people make disastrous retirement mistakes and they're retiring without enough money, and that is just wrong. But have no fear. Meet one of the most incredible financial minds in America, Dr. Richard Smith. And Richard's extraordinary tools are trusted by thousands of Americans to track over $20 billion in the stock market. And his tools can help you reset your retirement. You're going to be hearing a lot from Sean and me about Richard, and literally we have never endorsed any financial software until now. Why? Well, because some of his customers say he's created lightning in the bottle. So go see for yourself. Go to Hannity.com retirement. That's Hannity.com/retirement.
I'm here. What are you all worried about? Anyway, 25 now till the top of the hour. Well, I was texting my daughter, and that's why I was a little late. Is that okay? By the way, the good thing getting all riled up and angry about all this nonsense with the deep state is because now you don't feel the pain when your adrenaline's flowing. And then after, it's going to hurt twice as much. Oh, boy. Why do we have to get old? That's really annoying. All right, so what's happening? Nadler is now threatening to subpoena a reluctant Mueller. Now, that's another dumb decision. I'm not so sure Mueller's going to fall for this game. Because Mueller, if he does go in, he's going to have to face Jim Jordan. And he's going to have to face other Freedom Caucus guys. And these guys are going to dig in deep. When did you know there was no so-called collusion? Then they're going to ask, how is it possible that you're looking into Russian interference in the 2016 election and you ignored the Clinton bought and paid for Russian dossier? And he can't get away with a, answer that says something to the effect of, well, that's not part of my mandate. That was one of the problems. It was one of the broadest mandates. He can look into anything. And he did look into anything. How did we get to the Ukraine? How did we get to Manafort, FARA violations? How did we get to loan applications and taxi medallions and everything else that they got into? Because there wasn't collusion and there wasn't obstruction. But the whole point is, James Comey is telling some whoppers. The fact that he says is the FBI doesn't spy, that's not true. Because he signed the FISA warrant. And then he contradicts himself because he's declaring that the information in the FISA warrant is verified, and yet the bulk of information from the Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier was never verified and unverifiable. I mean, these are insane times. And when he signed the warrant, it was a warrant to spy on Carter Page and vis-a-vis the Trump campaign through Carter Page. Carter Page was never charged with anything. Carter Page has been working with our intelligence officials for years. And every time he went abroad where his work took him, you want to know what I really think? I actually think Carter Page probably at some point worked with our intelligence agencies. He's never going to tell me, but that's my gut feeling on it. So, when did you lie, Jimbo? Did you lie on the dossier in 2016, or did you lie to then President-elect Trump in 2017 at Trump Tower? Because you can't say in 2017 it's unverified and then put the information in a FISA application to spy on the Trump campaign, which you didn't tell Trump you were doing either, and put your signature to it. I mean, he's got a whole host of problems here for himself. And, the biggest problem he has, if you look at this interview, which I'm reading all the reports on it, Comey's telling Anderson Cooper, well, it's possible that the Russians continue to have leverage over President Trump. And, well, I don't know the answer to that, he said. Do you think it's possible? Yes. It would have been out by now. I don't think Putin particularly likes the fact that America is now competing on the world stage with the lifeblood of all of Russia's economy, which is the export of energy, because now we are the top energy producer in the world. And we're now literally sending more of our energy, natural gas, oil, over to Western Europe. Why? So they don't have to be so dependent on the hostile regime of Russia and a bad hostile actor on the world stage, Vladimir Putin. Mueller, by the way, he still hasn't committed to this idea of testifying before Congress. Maybe he's confident in the notion that, Bill Barr, maybe, if you listen to what the Attorney General said, he gave Mueller the opportunity to look over the March 24th 4-page summary, which also said that they were going to redact what needed to be redacted by law, and then they were going to release it to the American people. But Mueller didn't take the time. That was his opportunity if he had any disagreements. And so when he did send the letter to Barr, Barr called him. Is there anything you disagree with? I'll tell people. No, it's the media coverage that I don't like. So Nadler is now suggesting that he might go out and subpoena Mueller. Well, what if Mueller doesn't want to talk? And I would believe he probably doesn't. So it's pretty interesting all the way around. By the way, people all worked up that Giuliani is going to travel to Ukraine, saying the country's probes may be very, very helpful for Trump. Let me tell you something. It goes back to this fundamental issue as it relates to Democrats. I mean, the hypocrisy reeks from these people. You got to be clear. The first thing is one thing as we speak, there is available to top Democrats, Jerry Nadler. Remember, Nadler didn't want the Starr report released. That at that point, Ken Starr had to release it by law. That was the independent counsel statute. After Clinton got impeached, there were 11 specific felonies that Ken Starr laid out in the Starr report that Bill Clinton had committed. Bill Clinton lost his law license. Bill Clinton had to pay almost $1 million to Paula Jones as a settlement. Bill Clinton got impeached, but there were specific felonies. And in that case, Jerry Nadler and company, they didn't want the Starr report out. And then after that all went down, then they went back and they ditched the independent counsel statute and they come up with the special counsel statute. And they're the ones that created the special counsel statute, which basically the special counsel is appointed by the acting attorney general of the U.S. In this case, it was Rod Rosenstein because Jeff Sessions had recused himself the day after he was confirmed, which frankly screwed over the president pretty royally because he wasn't having his guy in the as AG as he needed and wanted. And you have Rod Rosenstein. All right. So Rod Rosenstein, go ahead. It's like they all know each other. They've all crossed paths a million times together. So then Mueller's hired. He does have particular conflicts. Before the day before he's appointed special counsel, he's applying to Donald Trump to be the FBI director, which is interesting considering it's his buddy Comey there. So, backtrack a little bit. Then they had conflicts at a particular golf course, I guess, that Donald Trump owns. And I don't know all the specifics in it, but it had happened. But anyway, so they want to hold the attorney general in contempt. They're talking about bringing in the sergeant of arms to handcuff the attorney general of the United States. Now, why would they want to handcuff the attorney general? Well, they're saying it's because they want a full and unredacted copy of the Mueller report. Well, what they're not telling anybody is it's available right now for top Democrats to view with only 2 full and 7 partial lines, not pages, lines that are redacted because the law, they're asking the attorney general to break the law because grand jury information is pursuant to federal law. They can't release it under any set of circumstances. Now, never mind the fact that the attorney general, as part of, again, we got rid of the independent counsel law. Now it's a special counsel that works for the acting attorney general. And as part of that, he doesn't have to release any of the report because people like Nadler didn't want any of it released in the future because they didn't like what happened with the Starr report. So when you have an unredacted copy that's only missing 2 full and 7 partial lines because that's protected grand jury information and a violation of law to release it, why are they creating this big circus and brouhaha? Because what they're asking is for the attorney general of the United States to violate the law. But of course, nobody in the fake news media would ever know about that being a federal violation under Rule 6E if you reveal grand jury information. And Nadler didn't take the time to go over and look at it. He has the right to, but he didn't do it. Mitch McConnell did. Lindsey Graham did. Congressman Collins did. Nancy Pelosi did not. All these other Democrats that want the sergeant of arms cuffing the attorney, none of them took the time to do it. It's a sideshow. It's a circus. It's a total act, so that they can continue to perpetrate this conspiracy theory hoax and these lies they've been pushing for 2 years. It's lies. Anything now Mueller related is over. The attorney general made the decision, and it had nothing, in spite of what Jim Comey said yesterday, nothing to do with Justice Department policy that questions whether you can indict a sitting president. And that was stated by the attorney general and the deputy attorney general and stated by the Office of Legal Counsel. And apparently Mueller agreed too. But that still doesn't stop them because they're so locked into their rage and psychotic state of hatred for all things Trump. So it's pretty obvious the subpoena and the brouhaha and contempt vote is nothing more than a political theater created by people that want to continue to perpetrate the big Russia hoax lie. The truth doesn't mean anything to them because they know the truth. They know it's available to them. Top Democrats, go back. I pointed this out on TV last night. Remember Obama, his self-proclaimed wingman, his attorney general, Eric Holder. Well, he was actually held in contempt. And he refused to turn over scores of subpoenaed documents. And that was related to the Fast and Furious scandal where the government of Biden Obama, were stupid enough to give guns to cartels and gang members. And, these guns were found to be used to kill innocent people. And even border agent Brian Terry, we've had his brother on the program numerous times. And they wouldn't hand over the information. And executive privilege, of course, was invoked. Now, Donald Trump's fighting back now, but for 2.5 years, not once did he invoke executive privilege. Not once did he do anything but encourage everybody in the White House to show up, hire lawyers, I guess, and show up to Mueller's, witch hunt and get interviewed or grilled by Mueller's Democratic donor friends. And even Hillary's attorney, as it relates to the Clinton Foundation, Jeannie Ray or Andrew Weissman. Nobody was denied. There was nobody that was told to stay back. Now, why Don McGahn, the White House counsel, if that's not a situation where you have an opportunity, to invoke executive privilege, I don't know what is. Well, now the president says, okay, we have 4 now separate conclusions. They all show the same thing, and we're not cooperating anymore. 1.4 million documents. I've answered your written questions. Everybody you've had access to at the White House. We didn't invoke executive privilege once. And now you want to continue and you want us to participate in the fraud. And he's not going to do it. And, so it's like every other selective moral outrage. Kavanaugh, we'll bludgeon him with I believe, but not the lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Indignation will rush to judgment and bludgeon a 16-year-old kid, Nicholas Sandman. Will rush to judgment in the Mullet case. It's always guilt by accusation. And the great irony where we're now headed is that everything they said they were so upset about, collusion and the 2016 campaign, Ukraine is begging to give us the evidence and emails from DNC members asking for dirt on the Trump campaign and Paul Manafort and admitting they conspired and colluded with the Hillary campaign to help Hillary win the 2016 election. Now, one person cares. They only care about obstruction, but there's no underlying crime in the Trump case. But, of course, there's the Espionage Act underlying crime in Hillary's case. I don't hear one of these people ever talk about taking subpoenaed emails and erasing them and bleach bit and hammers to devices and no SIM cards. So all of this is phony and fake and fraudulent and selective moral outrage by these people. It's despicable. It is nothing. Literally, I don't think they just have contempt for the American people choosing a non-establishment candidate and the disruption that is. By the way, the American people in their wisdom saw the need for it. The disruption that is Donald Trump, the iconoclastic figure and straight talker that is Donald Trump, their little sensibilities can't handle it. And so there's this collective, rage industry, a collective psychotic meltdown, and just hating all things Trump, a desire to destroy him, destroy his family, destroy anybody that likes and supports him, and meanwhile missing the biggest success story, which is America's massive economic growth as the rest of the world struggles. And, of course, the best alliance we've ever had with Israel, and also aligning and sharing intelligence with countries we didn't think was possible before, and better trade deals, and more jobs and promises that are being kept and fought for. It's pretty refreshing, but we'll see how this works out for them in 2020. They're not going to impeach him and get him out of office. It's not going to happen.
New York Times reported that the FBI sent an investigator posing as an assistant to meet with a Trump aide, George Papadopoulos, in 2016. Does that qualify as spying?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on a particular investigative step because that's for the Bureau to do, and I'm not in the government any longer. But the FBI doesn't spy to begin with. The FBI investigates. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's a crazy thing to have to say because any other leader, I would say that's preposterous. It couldn't possibly be true. There's a footnote in the Mueller report that actually makes potentially oblique reference to these tapes where someone in Russia is alerting, I think, with Michael Cohen in October, late October, we stopped the flow of the tapes. I don't know exactly what he means by that, but Mueller seems to connect it in some way to that allegation. Again, Mueller didn't say it wasn't the case. He didn't disprove it, but he also didn't establish that it was the case.
But sending an investigator undercover to meet with somebody who is connected to the campaign, they claimed he was later on just a coffee boy. That is an extreme step, no?
No, it's a reasonable. That was the guy, Papadopoulos, who was the subject of the information we got from the Australians, that he had talked to the Russians.
Did you sign off on the investigator going?
I don't remember talking about that particular step of my team. I knew they were trying to see if they could check it out. That's a totally normal step. See if you can get somebody close to the person and see if they'll confirm what we heard from the Australian.
All right, they're more of the sanctimonious super patriot, Jim Comey. I've said it enough times now. Somebody needs to tell this guy, Jim, you do have the right to remain silent. And every time you open your mouth and you're lying again, you're going to get yourself in even more trouble. Now, imagine this. Now, there's three scenarios as it relates to Comey and lying, because if you look at the Nunes memo, the Grassley-Graham memo, and again, we want to see these FISA applications, which we eventually will. Remember, the bulk of information was Hillary Clinton's dirty Russian dossier that even the New York Times suggests was Russian disinformation from the get-go. Now, if you look at the closed-door testimony of Bruce Orr testified that in August of 2016, he warned everybody that Hillary paid for the dirty dossier, that it wasn't verified, and Christopher Steele had a political agenda, and that he hated Donald Trump. Now we see 10 days out of the signing of the first FISA application. Remember, on top of a FISA application, it says verified document. We now know that the dossier is unverifiable because the guy that put it together, Christopher Steele, in an interrogatory in Great Britain, under oath, said, I have no idea if any of this is true, maybe 50-50. I didn't confirm anything. This is just raw intelligence. And he was in a desperate position meeting with the State Department official 10 days before the first FISA application that Comey signed. Now, we have Rod Rosenstein, we played it many times, saying that, well, a FISA, that means a career law enforcement official is signing an affidavit to the best and knowledge and experience that everything that they're in the application is true or there's severe consequences. Remember that? So my point is this. So Comey signs the first FISA application in October of 2016, and he is signing off on the bulk of information that justified the FISA application being the dossier. Remember, McCabe said no dossier, no FISA warrant would have been given. Okay, then now he goes to Trump Tower a few months later in January of 2017, and he says to then President-elect Trump, well, it's salacious, but it's unverified. So he either lied in October, or he lied in January, or he lied in all occasions. And now he's saying that the FBI doesn't spy. He signed off on a warrant to spy on Carter Page and spy on the Trump campaign. But he's a super patriot. Remember, him and Strzok, and they're all super patriots. They know better than we, the smelly Walmart shoppers, the irredeemable deplorables, those of us that cling to God and guns and Bibles and religion, as Obama said. Anyway, joining us right now, Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, Fox News legal analyst in his own right, former NYPD officer. And by the way, author of the upcoming book, Exonerated, out in October. And Chris Hahn of the formerly successful 3-affiliate Chris Hahn Show.
It's still there.
Oh, you still have it? How many stations? Last time it was 3.
I don't know. I'm on a lot of stations now.
How many?
I think I'm on about 8.
Now, you started a podcast called The Aggressive Progressive.
That's right, man. Aggressive Progressive on Revolver. You got to check
man.
it out.
Now, how many times
Please
does my name come up? How many times does my name come up on your Aggressive Progressive podcast?
I save you for the radio because I'm on a lot of stations that you're on. So
So why
you, it's usually on the radio.
So what you do is you basically take my audience that I hand off to you and piss them off about me, and your ratings go down to nothing. That's a really smart strategy.
I talk about you, and they want to call in to defend you. Some of these guys, and
that's right. I love my audience.
So.
Dan Bongino, don't we have the best audience in the history of mankind?
No, seriously, Sean. They're super loyal. I mean, I've been at events with you and watched people come up to you and they say the most heartfelt things. So, no, I know you guys are.
Well, because we love our country. Now, let's give Mr. Aggressive Progressive an honesty test, an intellectual honesty test. Dan, are you ready? Should we do this, Dan?
I'm ready.
Let's ask Chris Hahn of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. Now, if Comey has to testify and signs off on the first FISA warrant application to spy on Carter Page and the Trump campaign, he's verifying that everything is true and verified. We now know it's unverifiable. Did he lie then, or did he lie to President-elect Trump when he said it's salacious but unverified? Because those are two contradictory things, aren't they?
They are, but the FISA warrants to follow Carter Page happened long before the Trump campaign. The FBI had been following.
No,
Carter
it happened
Page
in
for years.
October of 2016.
Well, that was the fourth or the third or fourth FISA warrant to fire.
No. Let me help you.
You got to read up FISA warrants.
Chris, let me give you facts, because facts are interesting things. You can't dispute facts.
Right.
No, the first FISA application was in October of 2016. Comey's signature was on that one. It was January 2017 when he contradicted what he signed in October of 2016 by saying it's unverified and salacious.
Okay. I disagree. The first FISA warrant
Oh, my
to
gosh.
file Carter Page was in 2014.
Oh my God! Listen. I hate to say this, but
with Russia on a
you're not.
for years.
You know why you can't be on this show much? Because you just don't keep up. You're not.
Yeah, I know.
You don't read.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
I read different papers than you.
John,
Oh, you're probably
he doesn't
watching
know what
CNN.
he's talking about. He's wasting everybody's time. You
Really?
just played out to him a fact any of your listeners can Google in under 5 seconds. Jim Comey signed the first FISA in October 2016. That's not open for dispute or interpretation, only amongst the idiot class of pundits. Then Jim Comey goes up a couple months later after verifying the information is true and tells Donald Trump in January, Sean, let me check. Is January 2017 after October of 2016? Maybe
The
not.
last time, yes, according to every calendar
Thank
except
you.
Chris's. Yeah.
They're verifying
Thank
the
you. Thank
FISA
you,
warrant
Sean.
information is true. They are
Chris,
not verifying
you don't
that
know
everything
what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking. Just admit Sean just destroyed you on it. You don't know what you're talking about.
I think you really
In
do need to
January
admit.
2017
on this
Listen,
call.
I'm going to help you out. I mean, stop digging, because you're digging a ditch for yourself, and you're going to just dig deeper. Why don't you say I got my time frame wrong, and we'll move on.
All right. Well, I'll have to verify my time frame. How's
Okay, no, all right. You know what? Then we're just going to keep going, because you don't know what you're talking about. And if you can't
Friday
admit
afternoon,
certain
Sean.
basic
It's
fundamental
Friday
dates
afternoon.
and a timeline, well, I know you watch, Dan, this is his problem.
Friday,
You watch
man.
his conspiracy TV, MSNBC, he
on
believes this
Saturday,
garbage.
But not on Friday. Friday, I like to kick back.
Now he's blaming Friday for his dumb mistake, Dan.
And Sean,
Oh,
Jim
my gosh.
Comey, after they and you brought up an interesting point on your Fox show last night. The FBI actually stamps these FISA applications with the words verified. In other words, Jim Comey said at one point when he signed off on a warrant that he and his FBI had authenticated information. Just months later, he walked into Donald Trump, said was salacious and unverified. It's not open for dispute. I just don't understand why liberals just don't come clean with this and just take the loss. Spying is a synonym for surveillance in every dictionary on the planet, every thesaurus on the planet. It's obvious what happened. They got a secret spying warrant. They employed multiple spies, Stefan Halper, Azra Turk. They issued national security letters. Just take the loss, Chris. Stop humiliating the liberal.
Dan, you're already one of Sean's favorite guys. You don't got to tell me you watched the show last night. Okay.
But hang on, he was on the show last night.
On your other screen, you had a hockey game on, so you watch with one eye.
Whoa, excuse me. Why after you get your brains beaten in and you just sound dumb, do you just go after the guest personally? Why don't you be nice to... Dan was an NYPD officer. He was a Secret Service officer. He's a close friend of mine. Dan knows more about this than you. Maybe you should be quiet and just listen to Dan.
Dan and Sean, you might not believe this, but I love you too, brother.
I have defended you to people who think you're a real jerk. I'm serious. And you do this stuff, and it's really like it gets under my skin. You just are unfamiliar with the facts. I'm sorry. I don't hold it personally against you.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do, because Linda loves Chris Hahn. All right, Linda has a deep, biting like. All right, Linda, who's correct with the timeline? Dan and myself, or Mr. Aggressive Progressive Podcast?
you guys are correct, but Chris just very kindly said, I'm going to just check my
Let me check my facts.
information.
Okay, well, how do you not know this?
Like,
when we've
he's
been
got
covering
children.
it for 2 years.
He just started a new podcast. He's very busy. His kids are teenagers. He's got stuff to do. Maybe he just missed that.
It's Friday afternoon. I got to
Yeah, Friday. I don't know. I would have had the dates on Monday.
Sure, for my friend Sean with my buddy Dan Bongino. Happy to
Exactly.
Make me check
So you know what we did? We were unfair because we asked him on Friday, Dan. We should have asked him on Monday.
I don't know when you can ask him. Monday?
I don't know. What day is your best day that you might remember something called the fact?
I remember facts all the time when I'm prepared to remember the fact.
When I'm prepared to remember the facts.
I do know this about Carter Page. There were multiple FISA warrants on Carter Page to follow him.
Okay,
Carter Page was engaged with the Russians on a very high level.
Okay,
and the
stop.
country should be concerned.
Carter Page, by the way, you know what? I'm not buying this because Carter Page, and I've interviewed. Have you ever interviewed him? Have you ever met him? Have you ever talked to him?
He's a very sweet guy.
I didn't ask you. Did you ever meet him? Ever interview? Ever talk to him?
I have. I've never interviewed him, but I have talked to him.
How long?
I've talked to him a couple of times, and I find him very sweet.
Sweet. Okay.
Yes.
Whatever. Whatever description you want to use.
He's a sweet guy.
Carter Page, when he would go abroad as part of his job,
actually.
Dan Bongino, correct me if I'm wrong, he would come back and he would debrief every experience he had with our intelligence officials because he loves his country.
Yes. You know what? Chris is insulting a Naval Academy grad, Carter Page, by the way, Sean, who's never been charged with anything.
Never.
And, Sean, he was a cooperating witness. Chris is not a law enforcement guy. He doesn't know what that means. I know you do. Meaning he helped the United States government in the Buryakov case where we locked up Russian spies. I don't expect Chris to understand any of this. It's beyond his...
That's why Dan is on. I forgot all about that.
But
Dan's a rock star.
I was the chief deputy Nassau County executive. The police department reported to me. I know a thing or two about law enforcement too. Okay, just because.
Why? How many times have you been locked up?
There might not be reasonable suspicion to pursue.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Were you locked up?
About Navy grads. What about all these FBI agents who are patriots?
Chris, why are you all worked up? Why don't you just say I kind of screwed this up? And by the way, were you ever arrested?
I have never been arrested.
You should be.
For what?
All right. I don't know. We'll figure out. Well, we'll say you colluded with the Russians. That's what all your friends say every day. We'll just make it up like they do and build a big bizarre conspiracy theory full of lies for 2 years and just a hoax perpetrated on the American people. All right, hang in there. Dan Bongino, Chris Hahn. By the way, Chris has a podcast. It's called The Aggressive Progressive. And I think he's going to have me and Dan on as a guest. All right, final minute with Chris Hahn and with Dan Bongino. Do you want to apologize to Dan, Chris?
Apologize? I love Dan. Dan knows that.
Have you ever been on Dan's show?
I keep telling Dan we got to do some speeches together. We got to tour the country, make some money. But, he wants to do his YouTube show.
Dan?
Yeah, well, Chris, unlike you, I have an audience. My YouTube show gets hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know what you're getting on the progressive,
we would make more money. I think we would make more money together. I think people like us together. We've got very similar Italian-American energy.
I'd have to hire security. I would have to hire security. People are so...
No, Dan, what he's trying to do is he's trying to ride your coattails to success. That's what he's doing.
And I would give the guy an opportunity, but he's got to know something. I'm not going to have him in front of an audience. He doesn't even know that Comey signed a fight or not over.
I mean, Chris, you got to up your knowledge, and if you want to get in the game, you got to actually read.
Guys, I didn't say Comey didn't sign the warrant. I'm saying it wasn't the first warrant because you're missing the other warrant.
No, you didn't even know when the first warrant is. You don't even know the timeline of any of it.
Predates the Trump candidacy, the first warrant.
Oh my, Dan Bongino, thank you. Chris, there's no hope. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. You want to be a part of the program. All right, at the bottom of the half hour, we got some real economic numbers, and we'll have more on Comey and his lies from last night at the top of the next hour, News Roundup Hour. Straight ahead.
The big scam of the whole address was that there's a crisis. There's not a crisis.
Folks, the president has manufactured one heck of a political crisis for himself.
Donald Trump is manufacturing a national security crisis.
You will hear them say is that this is a manufactured crisis. It's not a national security crisis.
This is a manufactured crisis. No crisis exists, and anyone making the argument is most likely guilty of fear-mongering and willfully misleading the American people.
Locals will tell him on the border, even conservatives, is that there isn't a national security crisis.
The notion that we have a crisis there, a security crisis, is absolute nonsense.
Because this is a manufactured crisis, and a crisis that manufactured by the Trump administration.
This artificial crisis of the president isn't going to justify his appropriating money for a wall that Congress is unwilling to give.
Is there a crisis at the border? The president said there's a humanitarian crisis at the border. Is there?
Absolutely not. We have a challenge. All our humanitarian issues are challenges for us.
Oh, really? No crisis at the border? Glad you're with us. 25 now till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Well, we had another article out today. Record number of agents apparently at the border, and as a result, illegal immigration at 9 times the rate of 2017. 9 times. Illegal immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border last month was 9 times the level of the same month 2 years ago and is projected to outpace every year when Obama oversaw immigration. Now, why is this happening? In part because, well, in part, the people in Central America, in El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras, they actually see the walls going up. They see their time is now limited in terms of free and open access to America's borders. And they have a president that is now committed and fighting every day to get the border wall fixed and built, as we watch every day. And one of the things that has always never kind of been stated, I know Joe Biden is staking out his left-leaning base, and he said, of course we're going to have to provide health care for illegal immigrants. And I'm like, why? When people go through the process and it takes a long time and they respect our laws, our Constitution, our borders, our sovereignty, why don't we reward people for respecting our laws first? If you want to be part of our country, the first thing you got to do is respect the law. Anyway, but what happens when you have so much cheap labor in the United States? Who gets impacted? Now, the Biden-Obama economy, I've spelled it out many times. 13 million more Americans in 8 years on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, the worst recovery since the 40s, lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. Fast forward, Donald Trump, record low unemployment for Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, African Americans, women in the workplace, historic lows, youth unemployment. And, you watch it. So I was reading CNS News. A good friend of this program wrote a great column, Terry Jeffrey. Want to make money? Work for the government. And he raises these questions in the beginning of his article. Which class of full-time, year-round American workers has the highest median earnings? Is it the class that works for the private sector employers? Is it the class that works for the government? Or is it the entrepreneurial class who are self-employed? And we invite Terry back to the program to answer that question and much more. He is the editor-in-chief of CNSnews.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
And it also, there's a direct correlation, because I think people want open borders basically for 2 reasons. You have people that want it because they think there will be that the majority of people, if they come in from other countries, that they might want government assistance to get their life going. So they want to empower a new voting base. The other group of people want cheap labor. They don't want to pay people for the jobs that they have available. And that either one to me is troublesome. And to me, we've got to be able to vet those people that come into this country. And we got to think about the cost to the American taxpayer. I think it's fair to mandate that if you want to come here and you get one of the coveted slots, that you ought to be able to pay for, show that you have the means to take care of yourself. But go ahead. What did you find?
Well, here's the horrible fact, Sean. The Census Bureau publishes numbers for the median income of Americans by the class of workers they belong to. And they have the private sector, people who are working for private industry, the government sector, people who are working federal, state, or local government, and then self-employed entrepreneurs who are trying to start their own business or working for themselves. And when you look at the latest numbers the Census Bureau has put out, which are for calendar year 2017, the highest median income among those 3 classes of workers are for people who work for the government. and the lowest is for private wage and salary workers. But in those categories, they break them up into, each one of those three categories is broken up into two categories. For people who are self-employed or who are in private industry, they divide it between agricultural industries and non-agricultural industries. And for people who are in government, they divide it between people who work for the federal government or people who work for state and local government. And when you look at it that way, the highest paid people in America work for the federal government. Their median income is $66,028. The lowest paid workers in America are people who work in private industry and agricultural jobs. And their median income is $35,490. And as you're pointing out at the beginning of this segment, there's a lot of illegal aliens coming into the United States looking for jobs. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture has studied that, and they say, the federal government says, that about 50% of the workers in crop farm work in the United States of America are here illegally, which means they're competing with the other 50% who are either native-born Americans, green card holders, or naturalized citizens. So those workers in the agricultural industry who are making the lowest wages in the United States of America but are here legally or are U.S. citizens are forced to compete with the illegal alien labor that the highest paid class in America, those who work for the federal government, allow to come across our borders and work here illegally.
The thing is if you look at the data now, and Democrats just lie, I mean, they're not telling the truth, but the people now that we have seen benefit the most from ending burdensome regulation on business and lowering the tax base. And for the record, I don't get the state income tax reduction that I once had, which, by the way, it was a benefit that incentivized states to raise income taxes that low tax states didn't have. So, frankly, states like New York, California with high state income taxes, their residents have been getting the financial benefit on the backs of those states that have no state income tax. And I don't think that's right. It's better that I'm paying more as a result of the Trump tax cuts. And I think I'm way overtaxed. But putting that aside, you literally have the demographic groups that have done the best under Donald Trump's policies are the very groups that we always talk about. And that is African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workforce. Why is that?
Well, because he's creating jobs. He's helping create jobs in the working and middle class. He's not creating jobs for the elite. I mean, we saw a record low unemployment rate among Hispanic Americans in the last month. That is a great thing. It's something the liberal media doesn't want to talk about. But there's a pattern here. When you look at another thing the Census Bureau puts out is statistics on every year and what are the wealthiest counties in the United States of America. Well, in the latest data, guess what the 5 wealthiest counties are in the United States of America? Loudoun County, Virginia, Fairfax County, Virginia, Howard County, Maryland, Falls Church City, Virginia, which is counted because it's an independent city as a county, and Arlington County, Virginia. And what do those 5 counties have in common? They're all suburbs of Washington, D.C., populated by federal government workers and former federal government workers who have gone to work for federal contractors. That is the wealthiest part of America, the area around our nation's capital. And the people who are working there, again, they're not backing President Trump to secure the border so that legal workers and U.S. citizens are in the agricultural industry can see their wages go up because they don't have to compete with the illegal aliens who are driving their wages down. We have a government that in an economic elite and a government elite that are married to one another, Sean. And another thing, as you pointed out, part of the jobs that illegal aliens are going into are in the agricultural industry, and the Democrats have a political interest in allowing illegals to come across the border. But major corporations in this country have an interest in allowing illegal aliens to come in for economic reasons because they can pay them a lower wage than they would to an American citizen or someone who's legally here with a green card.
But look what's happening, too, though. These high-tax states are losing populations by the tens of thousands every year. New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Terry Jeffrey with us, editor-in-chief of CNSNews.com. On the other side, news roundup, information overload, and your calls next hour. All right, as we continue, Terry Jeffrey, editor-in-chief, CNSNews.com. There's a story out today about the city of Oakland. They're in such dire financial straits, they're planning to use $2.9 million from the state gas tax, their revenues, just to keep the city's lights on. In the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, he's now facing, a $3 billion shortfall. And why? Because we tax the rich, we tax the rich, we tax the rich, and then the rich start leaving. He even said it himself.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, I'm a native San Francisco, and I know the Bay Area very well. And I love the Bay Area. I love Northern California.
You should, by the way, you should do what we did. We went and sent our cameras right to Nancy Pelosi's house, within walking distance to both her house and her office. No, I'm not kidding. And you know what the biggest problem? Homelessness at such a degree that people are literally feces all over the streets, syringes everywhere. And I'm just wondering, she's a multi-millionaire. Why doesn't she go around her community that's gated? And why doesn't she raise money so that homeless people have a place to get a warm meal every day and a shower and maybe a cot and maybe some counseling if they're addicted to drugs? I guess that would...
It's very sad, Sean. I agree with you. It's very sad. I mean, there's been a huge and sad cultural transformation in San Francisco and the Bay Area in recent decades, and that is part of it. That the city of San Francisco has been filling up with homeless people. They've made some of the streets, particularly in the Tenderloin area, outrageously filthy, and at the same time, you have the wealthiest people in America living there. And in fact, another interesting data point is the Center for Responsive Politics has looked at who are the wealthiest members of Congress, and 7 of the 10 wealthiest members of Congress are Democrats, but 2 of them come from the city of San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein. And they're among the wealthiest people in America. They're among the wealthiest people in Congress. And yet you see the greatest financial and cultural dichotomy in their own hometown, which is a beautiful place. And I wish it would be restored to what it was 50 years ago.
People didn't believe us, so we sent our cameras back and our investigative reporter, Lawrence Jones, back twice. And each time it was the same thing. Within walking distance to Pelosi's house in her rich gated neighborhood and her own office, I mean, it is literally, the streets are being used as a sewer. And syringes are everywhere. And seriously, I don't think it's that much. If she walked around the community, you have a lot of Silicon Valley people there that are extraordinarily wealthy like she is and say, well, I'm going to put $1 million in, you put $1 million in, and we can, build a place where, people can get, a cot, a place to sleep, go to the bathroom, take a shower, maybe get counseling and maybe get some, warm meal once in a while, something. Why are always liberals just generous with our money? Why don't they ever do something themselves, considering they lecture everybody else if they make money?
It's a good point, and I think there's another question there, which is probably a good number of those folks who are living on the street in San Francisco and other places have mental problems, and they need treatment. And I think there's a debate about how they ought to be treated. I think there is a role, particularly for state and local government, in trying to take care of people who are mentally ill. They shouldn't be out on the streets. They should be put in some kind of shelter. They should get medical care. Our society should take care of them. Ideally, it would be in private charity, but the second best choice is state and local government. And I think that really is a question for California, considering...
Well, they got a 13.5% state income tax. What are they doing with that money?
Well, exactly. Exactly. And by the way, California has a very, very high percentage of foreign-born population, but particularly illegal alien foreign-born population. And I think that's...
Well, now everyone's getting mad that they're not going to be counted in the census if they're not American citizens. Apparently, that's a big deal that the courts have to decide. All right, Terry, we got to let you go. Terry Jeffrey, editor-in-chief, CNSNews.com. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
When we come back, we get back to the deep state issue and crazy Jim Comey, who's losing it, and much, much more.
Coming up next, our final news roundup and information overload hour.
Do you think the Attorney General should go to jail.
How do you get this thing moving? Do you oppose fines? Do you suggest maybe even, as some have said, jail time?
Should he go to jail? True. Should he go to jail for it?
There's a process.
We send the sergeant of arms out to handcuff the individual who is declining to testify. Who are you going to handcuff? Well, I'm going to start with Mr. Barr.
But do you actually believe that the attorney that your committee is going to order the Attorney General of the United States to be arrested by the Sergeant of Arms and put in jail?
You don't want to throw the AG in cuffs, though, right?
We can then say is, A, we should have a non-for-profit public option for basic banking services, and we should be piloting these projects through the U.S. Postal Service or in any other number of ways.
All right, news roundup, information overload. There are they're absolutely off their rockers. There's no other way to do it. What's so amazing to me is how did these people ever get elected to office? How do they consider themselves to be law makers? Because what they are demanding of the Attorney General is about breaking the law. It is, Democrats want Barr to reveal the secret grand jury information from Mueller's report or face criminal charges from Congress. That's what they want. Now, it's a federal violation under Rule 6E. Not that I'm a lawmaker, that I should know something like that, but we actually do research before we open our big mouths on this program. Stop laughing. That's not that funny. Why is that so funny?
I think everything you do is funny.
Okay, because the grand jury, you release that, and they're then asking the Attorney General of the United States to break the law. And you have, and the most outrageous part of this circus that they're putting on, this show that they're doing, is that there's an unredacted copy of the Mueller report available right now for people like Nadler, the same guy who didn't want the Starr report out, who worked to change the independent counsel law from what it was to what it is now, where a special counsel that reports to the Attorney General. They're the ones that wanted. They're the ones that didn't want these reports public. He didn't even want. There were 11 specific felonies that Ken Starr laid out against Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton ended up paying Paula Jones nearly $1 million. He lost his law license and he was impeached. And there were specific crimes mentioned. 11 felonies in that particular case. So to listen to these people, supposedly the top Democrats. And by the way, the what they can get a hold of now includes everything except 2 full and 7 partial lines that are redacted that they can't see. That's it. Now, for the public, first, Bill Barr didn't have to release any of this information because that's the law the Democrats wanted after the failed independent counsel law, because they didn't even want the Starr report out. So they changed the law. And Barr's following the law. As a matter of fact, you can even argue that he has gone so far above and beyond what the law calls for in terms of transparency that I'm not even sure that he should have released any of it. And anyway, Nadler, Pelosi, every other day, they haven't bothered to go and view the unredacted report. So when they hem and haw and, scream and yell and rant and rave the way we've been hearing them, and demand that the Attorney General break the law, it's absurd, because they would be the same people saying that Barr he needs to be handcuffed by the Sergeant of Arms and forced. What are we going to waterboard the guy in Congress because he's upholding the law that many of them passed themselves? People like Nadler. It was somebody like Hank Johnson. This is all about 2020 for them. It's transparent. It's obvious. The subpoena, the contempt vote, this is all politics. It's just for them a game. There's been 4 separate investigations now that have all concluded the same thing about Trump, the Trump campaign, Russia, conspiracy, collusion, and 4 separate times they came up with the same exact answer. That's it. 4 times. Nadler, back in the day, if you remember, the self-proclaimed wingman Attorney General of the United States, then Eric Holder. He was held in contempt because he didn't turn over the scores of subpoenaed documents that related to the Fast and Furious scandal. By the way, people died, a lot of them, because they actually ended up with the Fast and Furious giving guns to, let's see, cartels, drug dealers, gangsters. And remember, Border Patrol agent Terry was killed with one of the guns that, Obama's White House provided. How insane is so? Of course, they did what they always do. He was held in contempt. They didn't hand over any of the documents in that particular case, and we had dead Americans because of their stupidity. It's like they lied over Benghazi, just like they abused the IRS and turned them on conservatives. Gerald Nadler was proud and tweeted out, join the walkout in the House chamber. This was in 2012 to protest the shameful, politically motivated GOP vote holding the Attorney General Holder in contempt. The same guy that just voted to do that to Barr. Why? Because Barr is upholding the law, and he's not going to release lines of what are legally protected, legally mandated grand jury information. It's illegal to put that out. Totally illegal. And it wasn't just that, it was most of them. They're full of it. This double standard on everything, selective moral outrage. It's, fury over Kavanaugh's alleged high school behavior, even though Republicans they did the right thing for once. They actually handled something well for once. To their credit, they took it seriously. The charges of Professor Ford and then the pile-on with Julie Swetnick. I mean, it became so absurd at one point. One woman claiming, the Hannity woman, Julie Swetnick, claiming that, well, it happened almost every other weekend. But I was in college, but I came home for the weekends. And almost every other weekend, they'd have these parties. And guys like Kavanaugh, they were spiking the punch so that the teenage girls in high school would pass out. And then the boys would put them in a bedroom. And then they'd line up in a hall. And then they'd take turns gang raping a teenage girl. And it happened every other weekend. And then when she was finally questioned in an interview, well, I never saw him spike the punch bowl. And I never saw him give anybody a drink. But he did have a red Solo cup, and he was once standing near a punch bowl. No, I never saw him in line in a hall, but I did see him in a hall. I remember distinctly. Nobody else remembered it. But if it's Kavanaugh, you bludgeon him with no evidence 40 years later, whatever it was.
Can I tell you what's making me mad today?
What's making you mad today?
So, Shiftless Schiff says that we should...
He's the cowardly Schiff.
Well, we have to call him he doesn't give a Schiff, or we have to give something. We have to give him something better.
Cowardly Schiff, if you say it 3 times fast, you're going to have to dump yourself.
It's going to get an FCC violation.
You're going to dump it. Go ahead.
So anyways, so he's saying that we should fine Barr $25,000 a day until he complies with the subpoena. And I'm thinking that we take away his salary until he comes forward with the evidence he supposedly has. I'm assuming Olga Busova has it.
No, that's, by the way, there are 2 great tapes in all of radio history. One is Alec Baldwin trying to be a talk show host on WPHT, our affiliate in Philly, and it is a disaster. Now, this was after he walked out of his tryout at WABC in New York, kind of like my ex-New York radio wife, and me and Mark Levin called him, which we played before. But then the next one is the cowardly Schiff. I mean, literally, he is on the phone with somebody he believes is a Russian, and he's colluding to get information to impact.
Let's just play it. It's so fun. I just love it.
My favorite part is, what is the nature of the compromise? Naked Trump. Pick the naked Trump.
Naked Trump.
Did Vladimir see the pictures? But of course, Vladimir see naked Trump.
Compromising position.
Compromising position. All right,
let's just play it. It's so fun.
Okay, and so Busova met with Trump in New York at some point after the 2013 Miss Universe pageant.
Absolutely, and she got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay, and what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course. Buzova shared those materials with Sobchak, and Sobchak shares those materials with Putin because she's a goddaughter of Putin, and Putin decided to press on Trump.
And the materials that you can provide to the committee or to the FBI Would they corroborate this allegation?
Sure, of course.
Sure, but of
when
course.
they were in Ukraine, we got their conversation by the phone where they discussed those compromising materials. We are ready to provide it to FBI.
So you have recordings of both Sobchak and Buseva where they're discussing the compromising material
But of
on
course.
Mr. Trump?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, Burr hasn't exactly been a rabid partisan on this
All right,
until
just
the
stop
last
there.
couple of.
So there's
No.
the
This is where Schiff says, I have the evidence.
All right, but I was going to make a point. He's actually colluding with Russians to get dirt on Trump. What was the whole allegation? That Trump was colluding with the Russians to get dirt on Hillary. I mean, and this idiot is on tape doing that which he's condemning. And that was my whole point. They don't care about Kavanaugh or the Me Too movement or the mistreatment of women, which is real. Otherwise, the I believers would be all over the lieutenant governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Just like they don't care about collusion, because if they cared about collusion, they would care a lot about the Ukraine offering us proof, emails, evidence that they colluded with the DNC and the Clinton campaign to help Hillary and interfere on 2016. Like, they don't care about that either. They say they care about obstruction, but only for Trump. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show, 800-941-SEAN is our number. We have obstruction with Hillary, and none of these people ever talk about that. They're the biggest phony hypocrites, and they get away with it because the media loves them to death. But anyway, go ahead, play the other part.
You know, Burr hasn't exactly been a rabid partisan on this until the last couple of weeks. He's been working very closely with the Democrats. So why do you think he's wrong?
Well, it's not just that I think he's wrong. Mark Warner, the vice chair of the Intel Committee in the Senate, also disagrees with that assessment. But look, you can see evidence in plain sight on the issue of collusion, pretty compelling evidence. Now, there's a difference between seeing evidence of collusion and being able to prove a criminal conspiracy beyond a reasonable doubt. But Chairman Burr must have a different word for it.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
So when's the last time you called Nadler and Schiff and the rest of them? By the way, have you ever called Maxine Waters' office and asked her to come on?
Well, she doesn't like it when I reclaim her time.
When you're on my time,
Yeah,
I can
know.
reclaim it.
I can reclaim it. I'm reclaiming my time.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
The scary part is that this is the best America has. We got full of Schiff. We got Maxine Waters. It's a nightmare.
By the way, what do these offices say when you? Because we've
They
invited
say
like
nothing.
Nadler and
They
Schiff.
ignore me because they don't believe in answering people that don't agree with every word that comes out of their mouth.
We've offered them 4 hours, 1 hour of television and 3 hours of radio. None of them will come on.
Nope.
Well, I want them to. Maybe they'll call me before their committee because I got a thing or two for them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. With bated breath, they're waiting.
Oh, what are your sources? Well, they're certainly
Olga
not yours.
Buseva.
By the way, it's certainly not yours, Mr. Schiff, because the only one in America that we have dead-on accurate evidence of colluding is you.
I'm sticking to it. I think that he should not get his paycheck until he produces this evidence that he has misled the American people to believe he possesses. If you possess it, by all means, show the American people.
All means. You're like very New York today. What happened? Did you?
It's Friday. I've had enough.
Well, no, it does come out more when you're tired.
This is very true.
You're full on Philly, New York.
My poor son last night, he did not sleep a wink.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, thank you for your sympathy.
Well, no. Well, to be honest, it's your fault the kid doesn't sleep.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, you want to know why it's your fault?
Right in time for Mother's Day. You're so caring.
No, I'm going to tell you why it's your fault. And everyone in the studio can attest to this, because this is what a phone conversation is like with you when you're home. Linda, I got to ask you about where we are with this. Hang on 1 second. Liam, what did mommy say? What did mommy say? Okay, 1.
Sean, what did Linda say? I said, do you read? 1.
No, hang on a second.
2.
Hang on. And then you never get to 3. And then so is that Liam? What did I say? What happens when mommy gets the 3?
It seems that no one in my life
2.
listens to me. This is the theme of my life.
1, 2, and why don't you ever just get to 3 and do it? He knows you're never going to get to 3.
1, 2, 3.
Break.
Whatever. We'll have our Friday concert series, Zach Brown Band, Big and Rich and Charlie Daniels coming up. And your calls next half hour straight ahead this Friday on the Sean Hannity Show. All right, 25 till the top of the hour. All right, we'll get to your calls next. I don't know what it is, but It's like we're living in a Trump time warp. News at the speed of light. I mean, every day is like we work at a frenetic pace. You know, we always have, but it's the degree of urgency we've never had before. So we get to this point every Friday. I'm like, oh, man, I could take a deep breath. Yeah, by the way, I don't see any more shimmer sugar strawberries.
Oh, man,
left.
I ate those
How many
ago.
boxes did you really eat this week? And I noticed you didn't like to share them, but how many boxes did you go through this week?
Listen, everybody here is a capitalist. They can buy their own boxes.
How many did you go through?
I ate
Shimmer
9
sugar.
boxes.
What?
Listen, you can get 8 berries a box.
You can double them for $10 more when you go to
See
berries.com.
that? I mean, you give me these good deals, and I take advantage.
No, don't lie to the audience. They send them to you for free because you're describing them on the air.
I bought some extra.
Oh my gosh!
And I got
and you're all shimmer sugared out because
between the
can't
coffee and the sugar, forget about it.
Yeah, well, as I said, this is you with Liam putting in her bed. 1, 2. What did mommy say? What did mommy? 1.
I didn't share my
2.
pink shimmer sugar with him. That's just
You get to 2, and then you go, what did mommy say is going to happen at 3? Well, I'm going to go to 3, and you know what's going to happen. 1,
and
2.
they sent Rice Krispie treats.
Can I just
dipped
ask you,
in chocolate.
why don't you ever just go to 3 and do the punishment, and then they'll start listening and go to bed?
You know what? I think it's funny how we talk past each other. It's fun.
Yeah, because you don't listen.
What else is new? How's your mouth, by the way?
Oh, that's brutal. I
think that's why you did such a good show today. You were in agony.
3 hours in the dental chair today. Oral surgery, root canals, everything. Oh man, it was brutal.
Why don't you use Novocaine?
Because then I can't do my show. I didn't get out of the chair till 1:00 in the afternoon.
I happen to think
I'm on at 3, so I just said you can put a couple of drops of Novocaine. When he was actually, they take these screws and they kind of twirl them around to pull out the nerve and the root canaling.
I don't know if twirl is the right
No,
adjective.
it is.
I think it's more of a drilling.
They spin their fingers around with these special instruments. And look, the only thing is that it hits a threshold of pain and it just stays at that level. And I just sit there saying, all right, I got to be tough. That's it. Suck it up. Suck it up. Suck it up.
You
That's
are
what
a
I do.
ninja.
Well, if you can't handle a little pain, you can't fight. That's why we have pain day when we work out. All right, let me get to the phones. All right, Big Time AJ, Houston, Texas. We have not talked to Big Time in a long time. Big Time, how are you?
Big Time Sean Hannity.
What's going on, baby?
Oh, man, hey, real quick, I want to wish every mom out there happy Mother's Day.
Absolutely, happy Mother's Day.
Oh, happy Mother's Day to everybody. But hey, now, Sean, back to these idiots out here. Sean, you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time, and I haven't talked to you in a while. But the people out here that's for Donald Trump are tired of the Republican Party not standing up. We are tired of hearing, okay now, okay now, okay now. When are these people going, I ramble, when are these people going to start calling out the Democrats, letting us see somebody get charged for what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and the rest of Comey and his buddies and all them did, and trying to blame it on the best president we ever had in our time? The people are tired of it, and we want to see action. We tired of Groundhog Day. We want to see, look at the work you do, Rush do, Joe Pags, all y'all, trying to tell these people what's going on out here. And these idiots in CNN and all them, they won't cover nothing. They won't even cover the shooting in Colorado. They won't tell the story. But they want to, Trump. The man ain't did nothing but make America great again and bring us all together when Barack Obama tried to divide us. And they want to blame it on Donald Trump? Really? Who brought God back? Who brought Merry Christmas back? Oh, that's right, John. We don't have a media to tell everybody that we the people out here waiting, and we're tired of waiting for the real people to get charged for what you and everybody else, you putting it out there, Sean. You're telling everybody what's going on, and these idiots don't want to cover it, Big Daddy.
You know what? Nobody thought we were right. The 99.9% of sheep, the mob, went and won, just like they treated that 16-year-old kid. I can't wait till Linwood comes back on this program with this kid, Nicholas Salmon, and find out how rich this kid is. This kid is going to get, because they rush to judgment. They get it wrong all the time. They got it wrong on Smollett. They got it wrong on Salmon. They got it wrong back in 96 with Richard Jewell, Ferguson. You've been listening a long time. Cambridge Police, Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, UVA, Duke Lacrosse. They got Obama wrong. They got Obama, they never vetted him, and they never told the story of his failure. They never thought Trump could win. And these people, they went on a conspiracy rage hoax that the likes of which we've never seen before. They tried to undo an election. They rigged a presidential election. And they thought they'd get away with it, except Trump won anyway. It's unbelievable.
Exactly.
All right, big time. We love you, man. Have a good weekend. California, Ed is next. Ed, how are you? I hope you love your 13.5% state income tax.
I can't wait for it to get higher. You know what I'm saying? The money's just falling out of the sky. I gotta get a bigger shovel, brother.
I mean, and the thing is, people aren't taking it anymore. They're leaving. New York, California in droves. They don't want it anymore. They've had it. And I don't care if you leave, but if you go to a no state income tax state, don't bring your dumb, idiotic votes with you.
Sean, man, you'll get me way off track on this one. You don't know how absurd Gavin Newsom is.
Oh, I do. He thinks he's going to be president one day, too.
Kamala Harris and what Nancy Bella Lugosi and the whole thing. It's in another orbit. Politics is in another orbit. Common sense has just gone out the window.
Listen, I'm telling you, people are voting with their feet and they're leaving. I don't blame them. I wish I can't get out. I'm stuck.
Oh, dude, you would relate to this. I'm in construction.
Mm-hmm.
The engineering on this little tiny house I'm sitting in right now as I talk to you, the engineering is astronomical. And now they want to put solar roofs on every single house. I'm out of construction. I'm in the last house I'll be doing.
Listen, I recently did some construction work, and we need a sprinkler system. I'm like, a sprinkler system for what? Well, you have you have some recording equipment on the third floor. I'm like, it just is. Well, how much is that? And the guy goes, well, that'll be at least $65,000. And I'm like, that's more than the whole project.
Oh, Sean, I could sit on here for 3 days and tell you about red tape from here to New York and back. The red tape is just unreal. But anyway, if I wanted to get back on topic, because you get me off topic, I'm pretty long-winded and I'd go forever. I got a question for you, and maybe I'm a little misunderstanding, but you seem to give me the impression that you think that the FISA court was not stacked.
Well, it is interesting. I don't know. I mean, I've got to believe one thing, and I don't care if you're a judicial activist judge or someone that actually believes in the rule of law, the Constitution, separation of powers, an originalist. But I got to tell you something. One thing I think I know about judges. Remember, these FISA court judges are picked by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts. And I believe they're probably the 4 judges that were lied to and fraud was perpetrated on them. I just think that if I'm one of those judges, I'm pretty pissed off today. Judges don't like being lied to. If I'm telling you, there's certain people in life you don't lie to. One is a judge. Another is your minister. The next one's your lawyer. And if you have chest pain, don't lie to your doctor and say you don't have chest pain. Obviously, a spouse or whatever too. But there's certain people you got to be able to tell the truth to. And it's still people lie. But I want to hear from those judges one day, and I bet they're going to be a little pissed off that they were purposely misled and such a fraud was committed at such a high level.
But how could they do it more than one time? I'm going back to the once bitten, twice shy theory. You lied to me one, you suckered me the first time. I'm going to go back a couple more because I didn't get it the first go around.
They're different judges. These judges, they come in and out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there are numerous FISA court judges. And by the way, that's like the hardest application to get done. I mean, it was, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We're not going to have a FISA court by the end of this whole thing because, this was supposed to be used, against foreigners. This is one of the big underreported stories is the weaponization of the powerful tools of intelligence by a few, but not the majority of people. Thank God for our intelligence community and FBI. But those few at the top that abuse power, I mean, they literally are going to end up making us less safe because nobody's going to support a FISA application anymore. And I'm telling you, it's what they did here by rigging an investigation for their favorite candidate when it was a slam dunk indictment and then trying to rig a presidential election, spying in a multitude of ways on the opposition party candidate. Even Mueller not looking into the phony dossier which is probably Russian disinformation. You know, the fact that we're so hackable as a country is nauseating to me because it's been happening 40 years. We got to build up defenses. I asked Mitch McConnell this last. It's been happening 40 years. Our top secrets are being hacked. That was what the big deal was about Hillary's server having top secret and classified information on it, because it was hacked by, we know, at least 6 foreign intelligence services. I mean, you know, why? Because she didn't want congressional oversight? Because that's beneath her? I don't know. We better get it straightened out, or I'm going to tell you something. The rule of law, equal application of our laws is gone. And all laws are basically predicated, and the foundation of which is our Constitution. We won't be a constitutional republic. All right, we'll continue. All right, that's going to wrap things up for us today. Wow, these weeks are going by so fast, so busy. I mean, Donald Trump's been president now almost 2.5 years. And by the way, the left still can't handle it. We are going to take all of this apart, hold everyone accountable. It's now going to be a slow building avalanche, cascading information, and it's going to debunk all the liars, all the conspiracy theorists, and all the hoaxsters that have been doing this now for 2+ years. And happy Mother's Day to all of our moms out there on your special day. We wish you all the best, and thank you for all you do every day.